Ahead and officially get started here. All right, great. That's right. All right, like I said, welcome to our fire evacuation program. So what I want to do first before I get started is I want to preface this by saying that for those of you familiar with our other communities across the enterprise, how many of you know of the other communities that Erickson Living has? Wonderful. We have 23 communities across the entire country, and the rule of thumb for all of the communities has been to shelter in place if there's a fire evacuation. It's in the handbook you received because that is typically the standard for the enterprise. However, here at Avery Point, we are the only exception. And the reason why is that we are partnering with the Goochland County Fire Department, and there have been some resource challenges in place where the county officials, the fire department officials, along with our home office partners here at Erickson Living have decided that it is best for us to evacuate in case of a fire emergency. So this entire training is focused on what that process looks like and what those expectations are. We can sit it over here if you like. Yeah. So I wanted to preface it by saying all of that. So I actually I've been here at Avery Point for about 3 months, and I come from a different community. I was part of the Riderwood Village community. How many of you guys are familiar with Riderwood? Anyone? Silver Spring, Maryland, 2,200 residents. This is like a small knit family as far as I'm concerned. So we can do an evacuation here at Avery Point. It's okay. We can handle this. Now there, not so much, but this is a good group to start this process with. The fire drill that we have on Friday, Wilton Crossing, is the first building for that fire drill. So we wanted you to experience that first. That's our gift to you, if you look at it that way, if you will. But so we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's see. Wanted to see if my security manager is in the room. He's looking for chairs for us, so I'll introduce him a little later. Wonderful. We do have some seats over here. 2, perhaps 3 people can sit here. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. So our agenda for today, we're going to go over some terminology to make sure we're all on the same page. We're going to talk about your immediate action once you hear the fire alarm go off, exiting your apartment, what that process and what those procedures look like, areas of refuge, very important part of this presentation, exiting the building, what does that process look like? Rally point, where are the rally points for the Wilton Crossing residents here, and what are the rally points for other areas of our community? Incident recovery, what does that process look like? Communication, how do we communicate information to our residents in case of an emergency? And then lastly, I'll go over the drilling process and what that will look like for all of you. Okay, so terminology, making sure we're all on the same page here. Fire alarm activation. Any activation of the fire alarm system upon detection of heat, smoke, or fire. I know that makes sense to everyone. The fire alarm system, a system of interconnected devices that detect heat, smoke, and fire, alerts building occupants with visual or audible alarms, and activation can be automatic via smoke and heat detectors or manual pull cord stations. So let me explain this. The fire alarm system is very elaborate. It doesn't just include those smoke alarms that go off and the fire alarms for every building. It is the entire system that also includes the monitoring of those fire alarms. How many of you know where our security dispatch office is? Okay. So we have a 24/7 security dispatch office behind the front desk at Emerson Square. How many of you familiar with your pull cords in your apartments and what they're used for? If you pull that pull cord in your apartment, our team will respond within a 2-minute time frame. We have response times that we have to abide by in our community. If there are any concerns that you have, if there is a fire alarm that goes off, we have a monitoring system that immediately alerts us in the dispatch office. Our dispatch office has multiple monitors, and they're looking to see and they're listening for any issues of emergencies across our campus that they need to be alerted to so that we can proactively and quickly respond.
Can we get a tour of that someday?
No, it's not something we have our residents tour necessary. It's literally like a room with monitors where the signals come through in different ways through our monitoring
Yeah,
system.
I mean, can we
Yeah.
go see that someday?
I don't know. Let me talk about that
That
with
would be nice to have a
administration.
tour.
Yeah, no, I
Just
understand
like
what
the
you're
kids said, we're
saying.
supposed to have a tour of the kids.
Right, I understand. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. So yeah,
Yeah.
let me talk to administration
Okay.
about it. Yeah, maybe we'll arrange something. But it is an opportunity for me to share with you exactly how our security team functions and what that looks like. They are a critical part of this process, okay? Good timing, Anthony.
Perfect.
So Anthony's been looking for
Here he
seating and everything. Anthony is our new Security and Emergency Services Manager here at Avery Point. He comes with a pretty glowing resume.
thank you.
So you want to introduce yourself real quick for us?
Sure. Well, like
Okay.
Sheena said, my name's Anthony. I've been here about 6 weeks here at Avery Point. I'm the new manager of Security and Emergency Services. The background she's talking about was I retired from the NYPD as a sergeant in 2022 and moved down to Virginia. I had a loving life down here. And when I first moved down here, I was doing security for Richmond Public Schools. And then Sheena found me over here and brought me to Avery Point. And I couldn't be happier, and it's been wonderful. So welcome. Thank you very much.
And if I could just share, Anthony has been amazing. He's been here all of, 5-6 weeks,
Okay,
right?
yep.
And has been phenomenal. So it's really gotten the team going and motivated. So really appreciate you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So continuing on with terminology, all clear. I think everyone knows what that is, right?
Yeah.
If there is a fire emergency, the fire department officials will give the all clear. Security won't do that. That has to come directly from fire department officials if there's a fire emergency, okay? Area of refuge, we're gonna talk about those safe zones. If you're unable to descend the stairwells to exit the building, we're gonna talk a little bit about what those areas of refuge are, okay? Oh, thank you. So, fire building alarm goes off. We have one in here, also one of the pull cords. So, when the fire building alarm goes off, this is not your apartment smoke alarm. This is the building alarm for your building. You will not miss it. It is very loud, unfortunately. When that alarm goes off, that is your indication to immediately leave the building.
And we can't take our animals?
So we'll get to that.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Excellent
Okay.
question. We
Because
will
mine-
definitely get to that because I know our animals are our babies, right?
Yes,
They're like
they
our
are.
kids, so I totally
And I
understand.
don't like big noises.
We're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
So the goal is that immediately when that alarm goes off, you leave the building. Please don't question it. Now, we know about our fire drill. It's not mandatory for you to leave the building on Friday when that happens. However, it's a good practice run, right? You just never know. And it would be nice for all of you to participate if you're on site. Okay? Thank you, Anthony. So, in your apartment, let's just say, you guys are kind of new to Avery Point. When I got here, I learned all about the burnt toast that everybody burns in their apartment. It seems like it happens a lot around here. That, of course, would cause some smoke, right? And it would set off the smoke alarm, right? When the smoke alarm goes off in your apartment, it immediately dispatches Anthony's team in our dispatch office. They get an alert that comes through. They immediately know from our monitoring system exactly where that smoke is coming from what apartment, and where they need to go within a 2-minute, right? 2-minute time frame. So that signal will come through their office and they know exactly where they need to respond. Now, on their way to your apartment, whoever burnt that toast, they will stop at our central control panel, which is in your building, typically right by that main entrance, I believe it's
Correct.
there. And that also gives them the indication of where that smoke is coming from. It's just another secondary measure so that when it goes off in the office, they can come to the panel that is controlling and monitoring the signals that are coming from Wilton Crossing specifically, and then that way they are just reassured that they know exactly where that smoke issue is coming from. Now, in that apartment, let's just say the smoke gets really heavy, that perhaps it turns into a fire. What are we gonna do? Thank you, evacuate, right? Don't try and put it out. You have people to do that now when you live here. Don't do any of that. You want to evacuate. Now, at this point, it's only the smoke alarm that's going off in your apartment, right? When do you think the building alarm will go off? Perhaps when you open the front door. There you go. Now, if it's not immediate when you open the front door, what do you think you might do in that case as you evacuate? Thank you. Yep. And what else might you want to do?
Put your evacuation tag on.
Ah, you were in a previous session. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I heard someone say, "Pull the alarm." Who said that? Somebody, Miss Walton. Thank you. Pull the alarm. Pull the alarm if you can. You're gonna exit the stairwells, not the elevator.
What
You're gonna go
alarm?
down the stairwells.
The pull cord.
The pull, not the pull cord, but the actual red alarm
In the hallway.
in the hallway. If you can go to the
Oh,
next slide
outside.
for me. This one.
Ah,
I was trying to find a show and tell one on Amazon. I couldn't find one. I was gonna pass it around for everyone. These are by every stairwell on every floor in every building on this campus. When you are exiting, ideally you're going down the stairwell. You don't want to take the elevator. On your way out, if the alarm has not gone off yet, pull that alarm on your way out.
So you're saying if somebody has burned toast, they leave their apartment and go pull the alarm for the whole
If
building?
it's of that magnitude. Now, a lot of times it's a little bit of smoke, it's not that big of a deal, right? That's most often, but if it does escalate, I mean, that's happened before, right? It could turn into a fire, it could escalate. Just from a safety measure, we would want you to exit, and we would also want to be cautious about, is this something that could spread? We want to alert other residents as well. Look, the idea is to get out of the building. When you get out of the building, you can even call 911 if you want to at that point. The goal is to get out of the building, but if you are able, just something that we're adding to the process. Okay? We'll take some, yes.
Sheena, we went to another seminar,
Mhm.
and if it's just smoke from burnt toast,
Right.
Anthony, you told us to open the back door.
Don't open the front door yet.
Yeah.
Open the
Yeah.
back door.
And that's fine, yeah, because you're gonna wanna open windows, you can open your back,
Right.
all of those, absolutely.
flames.
This
She's
is
going
when
to go flame,
this
yeah.
is next level,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, sir, absolutely, yep. No.
the door, there's flames.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, everyone in here, let's grab my, notebook here. So before you leave today, I'll have to take some apartment numbers and names to get more folders, but everyone is going to get, if you haven't already, a green folder, okay? In this green folder will be an evacuated hang tag. If you need to leave your apartment in an emergency, ideally, this hang tag is already hanging on the inside of your door. In an emergency, all you're doing is flipping it to the outside. Why do you think this would be an important thing to do before you leave your apartment?
He doesn't have to worry about us.
Exactly.
First responders
First
don't have to look.
Thank you. First responders, right? When they're coming, if it is that level of an emergency, they're going through the halls or corridors. They see this, they know that everyone's evacuated from the household and they can move to the next one. Okay? So everyone, each household will get an evacuated tag. I'll talk a little bit about the other items shortly. That is an important part of this package, so please do hang that on the inside of the door or just keep it in an area that you can easily access so that you can move it if you need to, okay? You mentioned pets earlier. What we're recommending is, If for whatever reason, most of us will grab our pets when we're leaving, right? But sometimes if you have a cat, they're running under they get scared, they're running under the bed. We don't want you running after the pet in this situation. If by chance there is a pet still in the apartment, what we're asking you to do is when you get back home, if you have a pet on one side of this evacuated hang tag, just say pet inside, okay? So that at least when you are evacuating the apartment, you can hang that on the outside, and then our officials and all of our security team know that there's a pet inside your apartment, okay? All right. Next slide, please. You go to the next one. Thank you. So you are responsible for exiting your apartment. Our security team will be helping to manage the incident. Obviously, when the building alarm goes off, it automatically dispatches 911. That doesn't come through security to do or anything like that. The alarm immediately dispatches 911. Okay? Our security team is helping to manage that entire process. When the fire department comes on board, when they're here on the campus, they're guiding them to the apartment of the source of the flames or whatever the case may be. So our team is busy doing a lot of those things. Please do not wait for someone to direct you, because the goal is that the alarm goes off, you are immediately exiting the building. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, our security team is assigned to different duties in those situations. They're investigating the event. They serve as the liaison between our fire department officials and residents and the rest of the team, staff. We field calls through dispatch. We're also directing emergency apparatus and emergency officials. We're also providing direction. So there are situations, once you're outside of the building, you may see our team members who are directing you to the rally point areas, which we'll talk about shortly. Next slide. Thank you. Area of refuge. If you don't get anything else out of this presentation today, please keep this in mind. If there are mobility challenges, once you exit your apartment, if you are unable to descend the stairs, your area of refuge is
The stairwell.
Thank you very much. The stairwells, you're protected for about 2 hours within any stairwell. Okay? If you can't get down the stairs, bless you. Please stay in the stairwell. It is the known area when fire department officials get on site. That is the known area of refuge in a fire emergency. Okay? One of the first places that they're going to check once they have things under control, right? Okay? So just please do keep that in mind. Next slide. Thank you. Don't use the elevators. So I'm going to tell you not to use the elevators, but they're going to still be operable. Here's why. The elevators will remain functional unless there's an impairment to the elevator shaft itself, impairment to the lobby adjacent from the elevator, impairment to the elevator mechanical room, or impairment to the elevator car itself. Why would the elevators stay operable unless these conditions are met? Why would they still be operable?
First responders use it.
Thank you very much. First responders. So perhaps the crew that's on the stairwell area of refuge, now they're coming, they can guide them to the elevator if it's appropriate, right? But it's for their use only, not for our use during a fire emergency. Okay. Next slide. Thank you. Exiting the building. Every building on our campus, residential buildings that is, there's an area or rally point, so that in a fire emergency, you exit your building, there's a dedicated area that we're assigning to every residential building so they know when they leave their apartment and exit the building where they need to go. Okay? In your green packet, there will be a map that will also tell you for Wilton Crossing, I know we have a few other residents here, but for Wilton Crossing, your rally point, where do you think your rally point is? Thank you very much. You only have the one parking lot, right? Pretty much. That's it, parking lot L. That is your rally point. Now, what's really interesting, why do you think it's important to have a rally point, gathering point area?
To count for everyone.
Say that again?
To account for everyone.
Thank you. That's one reason, absolutely.
hear
The
it.
other one is that this is really impressive, right? This fire evacuation process is new for me. Like I said, other communities don't do this. When the fire department officials get on site, the fire chief, the fire marshal, and all the crew, they set up what's called an incident command station. That's typically done at those rally point areas. It's very impressive. They bring their big van or their Jeep, whatever it is, they pop the back of that, they have a board, they're outlining where the stairwells are, where the source of the fire may be, they're directing people from there, and it's very important that this station be set up because that's where the fire department crew gets their direction on where to go. It's also where Anthony's team members will be right near that incident command station because they will then be able to filter information to staff and to all of you because they're hearing firsthand what's going on. So this is a very critical part of this entire process. So to have our residents in an area where we can account for everyone, right? But also we have an area where we can easily and more quickly field information to everyone is essential, right? Okay, so it is important if you are able to meet in your parking lot area once you exit the building. Now, if you wind up in another area outside of that, that is totally fine. We will find you, we will get you to where you need to be, all of those things. The other thing that happens is that we're able to direct you on where to go. If a fire is isolated to Wilton Crossing, then we can say, you know what, we're gonna guide everyone over to Emerson Square, right? That's where you're gonna get your direction. What are we doing? That's also, most importantly, where you're gonna get the all clear to go back to your apartment. That's the quickest way that you're gonna get that, okay? Thank you, Anthony. So here's a map, and actually, Anthony, if you can go to the next slide for me, I blew it up for everybody. Here we are right here. Your parking lot, here's your building here. Okay? And every residential building has their own designated area. Okay? Now, another thing to keep in mind, if you are in a different building and you hear of your Wilton Crossing fire or what's happening in your building, you are absolutely welcome to make your way over to your building because once again, we do want to account for everyone if we're able. Our executive assistant, Christy, everyone probably knows Christy, who's amazing. Every morning, she prints off from our census data. We have our census data for every resident, every apartment that we have on campus, and that's printed every day, so we have a current roster on a daily basis of our resident base. She knows most people by sight. So she's always at these rally points and she could probably identify every one of you in here. But if not, it is good for us to know where everyone is. We would also, if time avails, reference the resident away list that Anthony's team keeps so that we know people who are on vacation. So we do have systems in place to help us monitor and account for our residents. Okay, yes.
So if you're at dinner
Mhm.
in Emerson Square,
Right.
how would you know there's a fire in Wilton?
You might not know until the alert media comes across, perhaps.
Oh, and that comes on your phone?
Yeah, that would be their, and I'll get to that, thank
Thank
you.
you,
Yep,
thank
nope,
you.
good question, next
I
slide.
have a question for you.
Yes.
You know, the first floor up above us here,
Mhm.
on the north side, you could go exit there onto the grass.
You-
So
yeah.
all of us on the first floor, regardless whether we're on that part or this part, we could exit there, it would be much easier than. the steps.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is that permissible?
Absolutely, it's a fire emergency, just that's the first priority. These are best practices, if you will, right? Yes.
I was just thinking about the rally point being our parking lot.
Mhm.
Where will fire vehicles, which are huge and
Mhm.
take
It'll be
up lots of
chaos, yeah.
space, if
Mhm.
they are not even going to be in that parking lot,
Right.
where are they gonna be?
Now, they very well could be in that parking lot. They could be in that parking lot, but they may be on the other side. We don't know. It depends on where the source of the fire is.
We just need to be alert to what's going on.
We just need to be alert to what's going on. The rally points are typically where those incident command stations are set up and where the fire trucks are. But even if not, it's okay because it is your rally point and we will make sure you get the information that you need because that is the designated area where we're gonna be, where our personnel will be, where there will be fire department officials there. We do just wanna make sure there's a point, an area where we can all identify as our space where we're gonna get the information that we need. Good question, thank you.
I get that, because I've had to evacuate like buildings downtown, but we actually couldn't even stay on our property
Mhm.
because of that, because vehicles have to come in.
Right.
So we had to actually go a block away.
Mm-hmm.
So it just
And
didn't
if that
seem,
is the case, I don't know, it depends on the situation, but at least when you start there, we can direct you to where you need to be. And you
Okay.
do make an excellent point, because everyone's gonna come outside of their building, there will be direction needed to tell you where in that parking lot
Yeah.
you need to be. We would move away from the doors, obviously, because the fire officials will be coming through. All of those things would be taken into account, absolutely. Yep, no, and it could be, I mean, everyone needs to go to a different building.
sure.
But at least that's the area where you're gonna get the information and the guidance you need to do that. Yeah. So, okay, this is hard to read, so don't worry about reading it. All this is saying is that if you're in Emerson Square, bless you.
Thank you.
If you're in Emerson Square, where do you think you're gonna go if there's a fire emergency? If you're dining, where would you go? Exactly, that front parking lot in front of the main building, right? So it's just saying if you're in Emerson Square, you're gonna follow the same process, and it's going to be the area, the parking lots that are closest to that space. The other thing is that Emerson Square Clubhouse is the only area where there is a voice, what am I trying to say? Voice activated alarm.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where you're going to get the message that fire alarm, get out of the building, get out of the building. That is the one area, because of that the magnitude of that space, where you're gonna get a voice activated alarm as well with that. Okay, next slide. Okay. We're gonna be wrapping up here just in a moment. Post-incident, someone mentioned this, getting the message about the all clear, okay? If you're at our rally point areas or the designated areas, you're gonna get that message pretty quickly. We'll be yelling it out, we'll be guiding people back to the building, all of those things. However, for those who may, let's say, have wound up in a different area, right? Or if you're not even on campus at all, we will send out an alert media message. Anyone in here familiar with that? Okay. Alert Media is the emergency messaging system that we use with Erickson Living Properties. And essentially, if you have a phone number home and landline number and your cell number in our system, you will get a message, a voicemail, and a text that alerts you of emergencies on our campus. That is how you'll get the all clear. Okay? So that message comes out immediately.
So it will go to your landline and your cell phone?
It goes a voicemail message to your landline, and then, of course, if it's set up, and they can leave a message, and then via your cell phone, via text. Yep. So, yes.
If I'm out shopping, do I need to call you all and say I'm not there?
No, you don't need to do that, because in that kind of an emergency situation, we wouldn't be able to effectively manage that realistically. But if you are out, you will be alerted to an all clear, that there was a fire emergency, it is an all clear to go back to your apartment, so you will at least know about what has happened.
And if I'm out of town, I've checked out, and you know
You
that.
would,
Okay.
so hopefully everyone knows when you're out of town, right? Resident away documentation is needed. That's how we track who's here and who's not. Very important to file that through security. Yep, and that's how we would know that. Please.
What if we're just out shopping or at an appointment and you have your pet in your apartment?
That's come up before. That's a hard one.
Yes.
right? Some residents have decided to let neighbors know that they have pets.
Yes.
You
I
get
think I'll
neighborly with folks.
do
Some
that, Jesse,
have
if you
even-
don't mind.
Yeah.
I'll give you a key.
So that's it, right, and that's exactly how that works.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Just notifying your neighbors, things like that. Yes, sir, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, can you repeat the resident's question? A lot of times I can't hear the question.
Yeah, I couldn't hear them all
Yeah,
either.
I'm sorry. That was some good feedback I got from my last session and I forgot to do that. So she was asking if she's out and about shopping and she has a pet at home and there's a fire emergency, what do you do? And what I shared with her was this is the time to really get to know your neighbors, right? Alert them that there's a pet. If there is an emergency situation, allow them access to your apartment and vice versa if you want to. Yeah. So another thing, some people have little signs and plaques on their ledges that say, friendly pet inside, be careful opening the door. Something that does alert people to the fact that there could be a pet inside as well. So something else to think about. Next slide.
Yeah,
Already went through that. Yes, I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. If you're at a rally point, but you have, for whatever reason, separated from your partner, okay, is there a tool for the emergency response people that they know the status of who's checked in, let's say at Emerson and I'm in the apartment? What, is there any way to track the status of the better half that doesn't happen to be there?
Outside of you knowing where they're at, we wouldn't have a way to necessarily do
but,
that realistically.
You've got Susan,
Mhm.
who's at Emerson Point,
Yeah,
and she's WC 121.
right.
You've got David and Dog that is at our rally point.
Right.
Is there any way, I mean, are we able
Mm-hmm.
to link those two pieces of data?
I heard you say you were thinking about the alert media piece to that, like the notification
Oh,
piece that
so
we use to
before
notify
you-
people. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you do that, Anthony, I apologize. I just want to repeat the question real quick,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So just really quickly, he's asking if you're separated from your better half, or if you do have someone's pet, how do you get in touch with the owner, let's say, to find out where they're at, that kind of thing. And then Anthony was just about to respond.
Yeah, you had brought up maybe using alert media to do that, the notification system that we use to notify people. Unfortunately, that's based on them having their cell phone, right? So if you got separated from your significant other, your other half, alert media would just call their cell phone anyway. So you calling their cell phone would be the same type of thing. You know? So we really
Exactly.
couldn't use it for that.
Right.
To the point.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that
thank
program
you.
is based on that limitation, you know. But we'll do everything we can to, you know, the rally point really is, this is where we're gonna meet so we can know who's there. And we'll do everything we can, my team afterwards, to ensure that everyone was accounted for, absolutely.
Absolutely, and we've had those situations with some of the other, evacuations we've had unexpectedly, where people have gotten separated and then the spouse says, I think my wife is here, and then we may have another staff member go check for them. So we try to be as helpful as possible in those situations.
And we can also do that instantly over our portable radios, right? Hey, I'm here with Mr. So-and-so, does anybody have eyes on Mr. So-and-so? We have people all around that area that could probably, kind of help with that.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, Anthony, because I did forget to mention, so we do carry radios, two-way radios. We live on channel 1 for security, but in a fire emergency, we have an established line that is dedicated to the fire emergency and where everyone can hear what's going on from an internal staffing standpoint. So that'll help with direction, that'll also help in the situations that this gentleman just mentioned. So we do have that way of communicating internally on how we can also make sure that we're getting the messages out to different people, okay? As I mentioned, we do have fire drills coming up for all of our buildings. Wilton Crossings, first fire drill will be this Friday. You do not need to participate. It is not mandatory, but it is recommended. That alarm will take place, that fire drill will take place on Friday the 30th, and we will be pulling that alarm at 10:30 for the drill. So don't plan to be away at 10:30 on Friday, but that is when that's taking place. There will be a second fire drill before the end of the year. I believe that is scheduled for this building for the end of September, early October. I can't remember right off, but you will get advance notification on that. And we just want to make sure people are comfortable with that process if there were an emergency. Next slide.
Sheena, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Does Goochland have a mutual aid agreement with Henrico in case of fire? And if so, does Henrico know all this?
Very good question. I don't know the logistics, so, I'm sorry. She's asking if there's some type of an agreement or some type of a dynamic relationship, right, with the other fire departments in other counties, like Henrico and Centerville and some of the other counties. So I don't know the details.
Centerville, that's a little far.
That's a little
That's
far.
That's the closest.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to say that because there's a Centerville.
There is a
Virginia.
Centerville, and I'm specifically,
Different.
yeah, I am saying Centerville because to your point, they are one of the fire departments that have actually come to visit our site. So that if they are called in an emergency, they know the layout and the design of our community. So Henrico's been here, so they're very well aware as well, correct. So I'd like to believe that there are some relationships where additional resources are needed. But we find sometimes Goochland County, they have pride too, right? So they've been bulking up their resources. So hopefully they feel like they could perhaps manage that, but obviously they may need to reach out to other counties for assistance. Yep. So, any other questions? Yes.
I wasn't here when you began, so you might have said this. How will, if it's not a scheduled drill, what are we gonna hear? Is it gonna be alarms in our apartment, in the hallway, all over the place? And is it gonna last for 30 minutes, or is it a brief thing?
So the same thing that'll happen.
So the question was,
Please.
what is it going to sound like when the actual alarm goes off, when it's not a drill, when it's actually a real event?
Right. What you experience on Friday for our fire drill is exactly what that experience will look like. You will hear a full building alarm. You won't be able to miss it. It won't be an alarm in your apartment. It will be a very loud alarm that is your indication to exit the building. And that's what that looks like. Now, as far as how long it stays on, that's a really good question. She asked, how long will that alarm stay on? It depends. Those alarms typically stay on until the source is found and it's determined that it is safe. The alarm will continue to go off otherwise, unfortunately, right? But
So if my mom has a 10 to 11 o'clock Zoom this Friday, then I should take her somewhere else to do that Zoom since it's not negotiable?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good question. She just asked if there's something going on in your apartment, perhaps if you have a meeting or you're on a class or Zoom or anything like that, that alarm will go off. Now for this Friday, for this drill, it won't go off super long. It just depends. We just want to make sure everyone gets out of the building and then we'll shut it off. But we do want to make that experience as realistic as possible in case you have to go through that process in real time.
I figure 10 minutes minimum,
Yeah.
though, you know. That
Maybe
it's,
10 minutes.
And we can
15
leave the
minutes.
pets in the.
Up to you, but again, we want to get as realistic as possible. So
So
you
we
probably
can
take
take
your pets with you, bring them outside.
That loud alarm.
Yeah,
might
I always
be-
hate
Yeah.
loud
They're gonna,
noises.
yeah.
Plus we'd love
She
to
asked
see
about our
everyone
pets
outside.
for our fire
I would
drill
hate
this
that.
Friday. She asked about our pets and do we want to leave them behind? Again, this is a real fire drill to prep you for a real experience. So we would like you to go through the process as if it were an actual fire.
So my reason for asking about the alarm was in college, I decided on the third alarm, I was done leaving the building and coming back. So I hid in my closet. That alarm rang for 5 hours.
Oh my God.
Never hide in the closet.
Right, exactly, exactly. She was saying that after the third alarm, when she was in college,
Okay.
she kind of just stayed in the apartment kind of a thing. That's what we don't want to do. Always assume it's a real alarm, right? We're letting you know about the fire drill. If it's a drill, we will let you know in advance. If you didn't know something in advance, it's a real fire alarm and we'd like you to get out the building.
Don't visit while you're exiting.
Yes, exactly.
If we
So,
don't have a green folder,
How do we get a green
So I'm gonna give as many out as I can here. I do have a bulk of them with me.
I have some extras.
And then okay, wonderful. So we're gonna try and get everyone a folder before they leave. We'll maybe pop up at the door here, Anthony, as people exit.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And we can go ahead and get everyone prepped for that. Any other questions?